on Saturday, September 6th at Batavia Downs. They have a huge evening of racing starting at 6 o'clock. It's the $2.4 million New York Sire Stakes Night of Champions, where all the best 2 and 3-year-olds from New York will gather in Batavia, and we'll see who's the best of the best, Matt. And you know what? We have free PPs for the entire card, free harness IPPs. You'll be able to watch the races live. Just check out the QR code on the screen. Matt, we're going to dig right into this thing, and there's a couple of $7,500 guaranteed pick fours on the card. One of them starts in race 3. We're going to look at the 7 to 10 sequence, which features 3 of the Sire Stakes races. It starts with an open for the Pacers, and we're going to take a look at that field, Matt.
So we have 8 divisions of the Sire Stakes Finals, New York Night of Champions, and this sequence comprises 3 of them, like you said. Always kind of interesting, New York versus kind of other states that, the majority of the tracks are half-mile tracks. So the finals are always, for the most part, usually always on a half-mile track, which makes for some different racing, so to speak, where obviously post positions come into play. We start the sequence with an open for the more familiar local horses, and a pretty wide open race at that, I think.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I kind of have a little sneak peek at what you selected here. So I'm going to talk about the horse you didn't select that I have on my ticket. I'm with 2 deep with the 1 and the 3, Davy Day Trader and Lion Surfing. Davy Day Trader, to me, it looked like maybe this was a horse that could push away and stay close. He's been in the Open a few times already, finished second, was first in the Open too. But I didn't see, like, when I looked at this field, not a ton of early speed, and the inside's a huge advantage here. So I figured this guy could be sitting in the pocket. Maybe he's not as dynamic of a horse as some of the others, but could kind of get the job done. I know he's the 3-1 morning line favorite, but I don't think he's going to be the favorite here, Matt.
I'll get to that in a second. First of all, what do you think of the driver change? You have Dave McKnight III as a regular driver. For Dave McKnight Jr., the trainer, you get Brett Beckwith listed to drive tonight. Does that make him overbet? Does it attract too much attention? Is he overbet just because he's got the rail? Obviously, he's a legit horse. He's proven to be, as good as any other horse in here. I end up not using him, like you mentioned earlier, just simply because I do think he's going to be overbet, just strictly because he's a rail horse on a half-mile track. And you're getting a top driver in Brett Beckwith. So
let me stop you for a second. Okay. Let me stop you for a second. Now, if you like this horse before the driver change, which I did, right? How can you not use him with the driver change? Like, even if you think he's going to take a little bit more action than he should, if you really think he's a big contender, why not use him?
Well, me personally, with a couple of heavy favorites later on in the sequence, in a race where he's as good as anybody else in here, and I just don't think he's going to offer any value whatsoever, strictly because he's, quote, the rail horse, is basically the main reason why I didn't use him, because in a race I think is wide open with a lot of different scenarios, I guess you could say. I just think he's I don't see any point in using him when I end up using 3 other horses that are just as talented, I think, as this one. So basically, that's the only reason why I didn't use him. I'm saying I don't like him. I just don't see any point in using him if I have a couple of keys later on that are going to be favorites. So that's basically everything.
Absolutely. Well, we have 4 races to cover, so why don't you give us the 3 horses you like in here?
In numerical order, I went 2, 3, 4. William, he's is he going to get away in the pocket behind the 1 potentially? But maybe not. But Joe Cindano Jr. has been a regular on the Western New York circuit for a while now. I've seen this guy race at multiple tracks, and he's as competitive as anyone in these. I think he gets a ground saving trip on the rail, shakes free, maybe gets lucky. Lion Surfing is a regular open participant and he can come from off the pace, near the pace, grinding first up, for one of the leading barns up there. And Lanzhou Li, save for a couple of 8 holes, 2, 3, and 4 back when he just stuck in the 8 hole, He's been right there at every start. Another one can be on the pace, off the pace. So basically, that's why I went with those three. The other logical one is Lip Reader A. I did not use him just strictly because of the outside post.
Lion Surfing is the other horse on my ticket I mentioned earlier. I basically like the fact that he's moving to an inside post finally. Every time he's in the open, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7. I think moving inside, this is a good barn. I think this horse is probably going to be the favorite. It's possible that Beckwith going on the one could make him the favorite as well. I won't say that's not possible. We're going to move on to race number 8. It's a $300,000 New York Sire Stakes final for the 2-year-old Colton Geldings on the pace. We have an entry in here, the 1 and 1A. It's a Ray Schnitker entry. And the favorite is the 3 Fragment, Matt, at 8-5. And is this horse on your ticket?
Yeah, this horse is a keyed on my ticket and an obvious, well-deserving favorites, both on paper in the morning line, and I'm sure ultimately, at post time. I did key him. I really don't see it. I can't find anyone to beat him. I mean, we've seen this guy go 5 for 7, 5 of those wins with Jason Bartlett, who's having if it's possible, to have a career year. Jason Bartlett, he's having a career year. We've seen him be on the front end. We've seen him come from off the pace with a big move, like we saw at the last start at Batavia Downs. He draws well, post 3. He's had number 3 and post 3, and I think he's a deserving heavy favorite who is going to make his way to the front and control the action and pay 280, and I'll have him keyed and I'll move on from there.
Okay, well, I went too deep in here. I did use Fragment. Obviously I see, why you did, and it makes sense. The one thing I'll say about Fragment is, if you look, he's 5 for 7. The 2 races where he was actually used a bit, the results weren't quite that good. He finished 7th at Vernon and then finished 2nd at Monticello. He won a 25-4 opening quarter at Vernon, which took him in, and then 27-3 and 56.5 at Monticello, where he got caught. And I think in the final with 300,000 on the line, horses like Quick Away and Hunt Off the Press aren't going to be sitting last hoping to get small pieces here. They're going to be pushing away, which means Fragment's going to have to work a little bit more. And that's why I'm going to use Quick Away on my ticket as well. I think he's coming out of a race that, is basically unimportant for the most part. Yeah, he didn't perform well, but it really didn't matter. He was in the final. He's done really well. He finished, behind Hunt Off the Press a number of times. But this is a start where Quick Away is starting inside of Hunt Off the Press. I thought that was key. You're picking up Yannick Giwner out there. I think that's key. I think he's going to be gunning to the front. And, worst case scenario, sitting, a pocket trip, whether it's behind Fragment or Hunt Off the Press. Any thoughts on Quick Away? Do I have something here, Matt?
No, obviously, yeah. And the one time Yannick Giwner drove this horse at Yonkers on the half, he went wire to wire with ease. I agree that the tactical edge of being inside of Hunt Off the Press is big, and Hunt Off the Press is a legit talent, and I just end up not using him because he ends up in post 7, and I don't know if he can reach the front, and he might be in for a long evening, with that late season nice cool air from Western New York, out on the rim. So that's the reason why I didn't use him. If he was inside post 1, 2, or 3, I think he's a must use. But that's why I ended up not using him. And I have no problem whatsoever using Quick Away. If you assume that his last start at Tioga, like you said, which was unimportant, like kind of like a toss, because he really didn't fire at all in a race where Fragment drew away. But if you can get past that, then he's a play.
We're going to move on to race number 9. It's the 3-year-old Colton Gelding Trot Final for $300,000. We have a field of 8 here. And listen, I went 3 deep in this race. I believe you're going to end up going 5 deep in this race. But if Variegated shows up with his best effort, and granted, post 7 at Batavia is not easy, but if he does show up with his best effort, doesn't he win this race?
Yeah. But it's just simply post 7 on the half-mile track. Makes me, pause for a second and say, well, yeah, I guess he is beatable. Listen, these are very classy and well-mannered trotters, especially over a half-mile track. So, but with that said, post 7 is post 7, and
I
I
just
think
pulled up the stats while you were talking. Post 7 wins at 3.7% at Batavia. It's actually less than post 8, which is 5.6%.
Yeah. So I mean that's a pretty telling statistic. Obviously post 7 and post 8 is no picnic ever on a half-mile track. But yeah, he's the best and most proven horse in this race. But there's so much other talent in here, from New York Sire Stakes mainstays with the rail horse Karen Karinchak, Ray Schnitker, who is always a factor in the New York breeding and New York Sire Stakes scene. Oki Svanstedt with the legit horse from the two post. Noel Daly's got two in here that are legit. And Fadeaway Hanover with Jimmy Morrill Jr. has got 7 wins already this year, and some of them on the New York Sire Stakes circuit. And he's another legit one. And Jimmy Morrill Jr. is a guy. Seems like he's been around forever. He's still 60 years old, and he's still going pretty strong. So that's the reason why I spread in this race, and I feel a lot of people will be spreading in this race because it does look more wide open in papers the way the post shook out. So I did go 5 deep. I end up with the 1, 2, 5, 6, 7 reasons we mentioned already, but I'll mention the 5. One of the Noah Daly horses. I threw him in as strictly a Scott Zeron first time. Scott Zeron for Noel Daly kind of angle. If he gets lucky, it wouldn't shock me, and I'd love to have a 20, 25 to 1 shot in there. That would be pretty cool. He somehow finds his way up to the front.
As I mentioned, I variegated on my ticket. I used Happy Jack B, the 2 horse, just because I thought the Oki sponsor would try to gun out and would probably end up sitting a pretty good trip. And Fadeaway Hanover, if you look, the starts where Morrill's driven. This horse has done well in New York Sire Stakes with a couple of wins, and he knows this track better than anyone. This horse wins a lot, 7 for 17, and 53 mark at Woodbine Mohawk Park is pretty nice. We're going to move on to race number 10. It's the New York Sire Stakes final for 3-year-old Colts and Geldings on the pace now. $300,000 once again is on the line, and this race, without a doubt, goes through Dandy Ideal, Matt.
If I'm not mistaken, you like Dandy Ideal at Pocono in the Hempt $300,000 race, and he went off a nice price, and he was very, very, very strong, solid winner. I'll leave it at that.
I did. I thought the price should have been a little higher. He got bet down more than I expected. But
he took quote sneaky money, without a doubt. Anyway,
there were a bunch of people right outside the winner's circle, like high-fiving and stuff like that after the race. There were people there who knew, so to speak.
They quote. You can put it in quotes. They knew, but it wasn't a surprise, that's for sure. But yeah, there was a little bit of that. They knew money. Anyway, follows that up Tioga and the Empire Breeders with an easy wire-to-wire win at 5 cents on the dollar. He's a key for me and a deserving favorite, and assuming he doesn't get torched on his way to the front end, which you have to assume he will be hitting the front. Do you see anyone talented enough to beat him? Basically, everyone else is taking a back seat to him in New York Sire Stakes events, and he's proven it on the Grand Circuit as well.
For my official ticket, I'm going too deep in this race. I mean, I will, probably have, extra tickets, and they'll just key Dandy Ideal. But I wanted to have at least one ticket on Courts on Fire. I felt like, Yannick from the rail. We mentioned how great the rail is here. 24% of the horses that start from the rail win. And that's by far more than anywhere else. It's almost 10 percentage points higher than some of the other, post positions that do well behind it. Yannick's going to be aggressive. He's going to fire out. He's probably going to be sitting in the pocket. And, when you sit in the pocket in a big race like this, anything can happen. We've seen Blake McIntosh, barn, pop one. They had Sugar Packet recently. I think it was in the Peaceful Way, where the horse didn't look that good in a limb, came back in the final, was super. So, maybe he's going to do the right thing and figure it out. Can he beat Dandy Ideal? Listen, I'll say 15% chance, but I wanted to have at least one live ticket for it. I know it doubles my ticket from 6 to 12. It's not the end of the world, because I'll have many more tickets on Dandy Ideal, and it'll all break out even, right?
Yeah, you would think. The other horse, the barn mate to Dandy Ideal, which is Thirsty Thursday, Yeah, he's been doing more. I guess you could say chasing with hitting the board, but not necessarily winning. He would definitely be interesting if he was inside at like the one or the two posts and working out a stalking trip and shaking free, and it will be some maybe a sprint home if stand-up deal is rated, or maybe a slower last quarter. But he would be interesting, and I might have considered using him also if he was inside. But as we mentioned earlier, post seven might be it might be a killer for him.
Let's pop our tickets up on the screen and see where we went here. I have a $12 ticket. Really, I don't have any singles, which is not necessarily ideal. But like I said, if you want to just single dandy ideal in the last leg, you can get it down to $6.50, and then you can play it 4 times, and you could have a $2 pick for $24. That's not so bad.
4 times, that's it. I thought you were
Well,
like a high roller here.
I listen. I don't have the gambling budget that you happen to have. I have a house and wife and kids, and they all need like clothes and all these different things. You
Clothes,
have
food.
what's your budget? You have to buy another picture for the wall, another horse picture on your wall.
Apparently, yeah, but but listen. No matter what obligations you have, you got to take a shot and try to run through some action first before you get to that pesky mortgage payment or whatever. Uh, I went for a $7.50 play, which obviously it's a 50-cent base with the two keys that I mentioned, and a spread in the first race, not using the likely favorites, and a obvious spread in the race 9. Nothing to get excited about in terms of the potential for a huge payout, but that's the way it shakes sometimes. And use the quote, you take what they give you, and try to hit a nice little moderate ticket here.
What we can get excited about is the racing action at Batavia on Saturday night. It starts at 6 o'clock. Again, we'll have free PPs for the entire card. We'll show the entire card live up on DRF. You can check out the QR code on your screen, or you can just go to drf.com/harness and check out all the action. 8 Sire Stakes races, $2.4 million on the line. Good luck.